Hello guys, my name is Luis Santiago. I am from Portugal, that's why my funny accent, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about camera traps as conservation tool with a particular focus on conservation of large mammals. So, this should supposed to be changing. Okay, so to begin with, when you are going to run a survey on animals to study their ecology, there are some questions that you need to have answered. What you want to learn, what kind of data you want to collect, what is your target species, what variables do you want to analyze? In short, what are your goals? Because all these questions allow you to define the research methods you want to use. And if you are aware of their limitations and advantages, that can save you a lot of trouble. There are several methods in the ecological field. Perhaps they do vary with the type of species you're focusing on. For instance, footprints and tracking surveys, perhaps the oldest known method to study mammals. On the left top corner, you have a footprint of a jaguar. We also do direct counts, call counts, nest counts. The last two more in terms of birds, also amphibians in the case of the call counts, and live trapping. So, as I said, you have to be aware of all these all the difference between these methods. They all aim to assess richness and abundance. Richness in terms of biodiversity, but the way they work, the efficiency will depend on the species you're studying, on many variables. I can tell you, for instance, that footprint tracking, it's a great method in terms of cheapness. It is very cheap, but only works out if you have an experienced researcher or you have any experienced staff conducting it, and if the weather and soil conditions allow it so, and it also requires several visits to the field. Along with these methods, we also have camera traps, my favorite. So camera traps started to be used in the late 19th century, if I'm not mistaken, by this congressman from Pennsylvania who was really into wildlife, and he aimed to take pictures of nocturnal animals. The photo on the top is, I think, the first camera trap picture ever taken, and but these cameras only started to be used for research purposes in the 90s by this gentleman here, Dr. Karen, who is a pioneer on using them to study tigers in India. And in fact, his team developed several techniques to study population counts and population estimates using the unique pattern of the tiger coat. So, camera traps are not cheap. I'd say that an average one is around $250 one camera only. So this means that in the beginning of the survey, they are associated with a very high price, or a high price, but as the time goes by, they become a cheaper method. This is an example. As I said, track surveys are cheap, but on the long run, camera traps can become a more cheaper methodology, and they have the advantage of being able to be reused in another projects and another studies. But why are camera traps so cool? Not just because they can record anteaters and baby anteaters, as we have here. They are indeed a very non-invasive method, which is perfect to study shy and rare species, also to decrease the risks that concern wounding and stressing, which might be one of the drawbacks to when you are conducting live trapping, for instance. They allow you to identify sex. We can see that I can tell you that the top picture on the left, well, actually, both the pictures on top are males, jaguar male and the male ocelot, and they allow you to see the structure of the population, also in terms of age, perform species identification, many things, and the activity patterns, all of those key elements that are crucial to study to work with large-scale wildlife conservation. And they have the advantage of working 24/7, which is great. And occasionally they also catch me when I'm installing them. You can conduct additional surveys if you do habitat surveys and measure the type of plants that you have around each camera. For instance, it is a good opportunity for you to find cool habitat associations between species. And they are very useful as well for the purposes such as developing hunting plans, either by performing long-term studies on populations, or by detecting poaching activity, which is great well, not great, but it is good for to study hunting pressures. And because they are fantastic to record charismatic megafauna like wildcats, they are great for education and for raising awareness. When it comes to planning, because camera traps are not cheap gear, in the beginning, it's useful for you to have someone who has a fair amount of knowledge on sampling protocols and designs, because otherwise they may turn out to be a major source of budget loss. Once again, the way you set them up will depend on your goals. Units close together. This is just a picture of one of my study areas in Brazil. Units that are closer together will produce more similar data, which means that you may have a problem with some statistical assumptions that need to be met. I won't get into much detail though. But you have to bear in mind that you need to cover enough area, but you cannot spread the space the cameras too much from each other, because say that you are looking for your goal is to study a population. If you place two neighboring cameras at a distance that is too long, that surpasses the home range of a species which you are focusing on, you might not be able to catch every single individual, or at least increase that risk, which will not be good for your results. If you are studying an occupancy, doing an occupancy study, which is a fancy expression that we have to say habitat use, you have to make sure that what you're sampling is an area that is representative of and that the data you're gonna extract can be extrapolated. That information can be extrapolated to other cases. So once again, also, if you are studying a rare species, you might want to extend the length of your survey. So once again, this all depends on your goals, and that's why formulating those questions in the beginning is really important, and sometimes underrated, I must say. So, as I'm sure you have already understood, I have been working precisely with large mammal species in the last 8 years, using these methods, not just camera trapping, but this is definitely my favorite. And this is, I'm going to show you here just some examples of what my research group has attained in the Amazon. These are two photos of a species of armadillo. It's massive. It's a giant armadillo. It weighs up to 60 kilos. It can be as tall as, I don't know, maybe taller than an average knee height. They are super rare, super sensitive to human disturbance, and these are the first two records ever found in the Manaus region, in the region of the central Amazon. By the way, this is a female caught in two different cameras, and I identified it through the scale pattern here. And this little thing, I don't know if you're able to see my arrow. This that looks like a penis, it's actually the opposite. So that's what we use to identify this individual. Additionally, my master's thesis focused on on using these cameras to study the effects of the moonlight on two predators, pumas on the left and ocelots on the right, and the relationship they have with their prey. And now that I'm doing my PhD on dice, I'm going to be working with jaguars and how they are affected by a landscape change in the Amazon, which means that one of the things I will be doing is identifying each individual through its unique coat pattern, so I can study densities and see how they vary with according to the existence of certain landscape features. And for me, that's all for now. I'll leave you with a picture of myself on a camera I had just set up, nearly going off my balance. Of course, I performed the double backflip and landed on my feet. But I hope you did enjoy this. These are my handles on Twitter and on Instagram. Should you like to follow some content related to nature. And if you have any questions, I hope I can manage to work this out through Teams.
That was lovely. Thank you, Luis. Really interesting. I really liked the photo of you earlier on as well. I found that really funny. If any of you have any questions, feel free, got the next 5-10 minutes. If you do want to ask any questions, just in the chat box function. Otherwise, there is a live Q&A section as well. Luis, I was actually going to ask if you're happy when we share the recording, if you could share the slides with me as well.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Okay. See if anybody has any questions.
Well, if nobody has any questions, I can brief you a little bit of the main results on my thesis. Not in too much detail, I don't want to bother you too much, but I can tell you that there are animals that are more sensitive to the moonlight than others. And that all comes down to a trade-off between energetic gains in terms of finding, and not just that, like finding food, finding mates, between all that and predation risk. So what I found is that, for instance, let me see if I can go back a bit. What I found out is that puma prey here, they in several times of the night, I don't know if you're aware, but I'm sure you have already seen that the moon has different locations throughout the night. But it turns out that in the same days of the moon phase, so say a moon cycle lasts for 30 days, on the day 16, the moon is on the zenith, which is the highest position on the sky, always at the same time. This is constant. And the animals use that. So some animals, when the predation risk is way too high for them to be active in the brightest times of the night, they will reduce their activity. That will be related with the type of clues they have. Maybe if they have a good vision, they will not care too much about that. But if they don't, that might be a dangerous time for them because they cannot see predators coming. And the same happened to ocelots. Actually, when it comes to ocelots, they do extend the activity to the morning and to more diurnal periods in the moon phases that are not as bright, because since it's darker, they are less efficient hunting. So they have to spread the activities to the morning and to more diurnal periods to make sure they meet the energetic gains. On the other hand, uh, during the moonlight, during the full moon phase, they restrict the activity to the night only. And the reason why this happens is because they are so efficient that they can just do whatever they have to do during the nighttime, just hunt enough prey for them to make sure that they will not starve. And that could be a problem because ocelots are smaller than pumas, and pumas would outcompete them. They usually when pumas find ocelots, killing may occur. It's called intra-kill predation. But it turns out that in the brightest time of the moon cycle, in the full moon, ocelots who have great vision, like all cats, they manage to see both their prey and to see the pumas coming. So the potential risk that they would have associated to being active at the night time during full moon is way decreased by their capacity of vision. And yeah, so I think I have bothered you way too much with that, but these are the main conclusions.